The West, 1899. But wild, no more. No longer is there a clear line of advancing settlements. The frontier is confined to history. The Indian Wars have been won, Native Americans put out to reservations. The world is shrinking fast. Communication and transport is connecting towns and cities, and the corporations have their hold over the land, the wealth that it contains, and its people. The type of freedom that was afforded to gangs to make their living has gone. Like the Dutch Van der Linde gang. This group is suffering in this changing world. Corporations have the money and the power to protect their interests, corporations run by the likes of Leviticus Cornwall, who can hire ruthless muscle like the Pinkerton detective agency. They were waiting for Dutch's gang in Blackwater, the day of the boat heist. They were now on the run. The gang flee north into the mountains and would have been caught but for a storm. But now, they need a place to rest. Our protagonist, Arthur Morgan, is sent ahead.
Arthur, any luck? I found a place where we can get some shelter.
They reach the abandoned mining town of Colter. Some of their number are missing, some dead. They have nothing. Fleeing the Pinkertons in a hurry, they have shelter, but they need food. John Marston and Micah are out looking for supplies.
Mr. Pierce, Miss Grimshaw, I need you to turn this place into a camp.
Dutch Van der Linde is their leader. Hosea is the other elder statesman. Dutch's counsel, his right-hand man. Arthur is his protege, his deputy. Dutch and Arthur ride out to check on the supply run.
Do you think it was a trap in Blackwater? That many men? Oh, they knew we were coming, but there was money on that boat, all right. Lots of it. I stashed what we took with all our money in town just before we fled.
They first find Micah Belle, one of the newest additions to the gang. Micah had saved Dutch's life in a bar and is now one of them.
Found anything?
Found a little homestead down that way.
Maybe it has supplies, but this homestead is occupied by members of the O'Driscolls, a rival gang where hatred runs high. They interrogate the last surviving O'Driscolls. The gang are holed up nearby. Their leader and Dutch's nemesis, Colm O'Driscoll, has a plan to rob a train. They search the house for supplies and in doing so come across Sadie Adler. The O'Driscolls invaded her home, killed her husband and took her hostage.
Miss, it'll be okay.
Dutch takes her into the care of the gang. In good times and bad, this group work together to survive. All have complementary skills. Susan Grimshaw oversees the smooth running of the camp. Pearson makes sure everyone is nourished. Karen, Mary Beth and Tilly offer their skills as thieves and scout for tips. Leopold Strauss, he keeps the books and runs the money-lending operation. Uncle and the Reverend Swanson have their uses, but are more concerned with their addictions. Bill Williamson, Javier Escuela, Charles Smith and Lenny Summers offer muscle and gunmanship. Another man of that ilk is currently out in the storm, feared missing. Husband to Abigail, father to Jack, and adopted brother to Arthur. John Marston. Arthur and Javier set out to find him. Arthur learns more about the Blackwater heist.
Dutch killed a girl in a bad way, but it was a bad situation.
That ain't like him, though.
They find John cuts to his face under siege from the mountain wildlife. They return to the safety of Colter. Dutch rallies the gang to go and scope out Colm O'Driscoll's camp nearby. Dutch says for supplies, but Arthur and Hosea suspect revenge.
I learned a long time ago that you hit Colm O'Driscoll. Wait for him, and people you love will die.
Dutch and Colm used to run together, but turned enemies. Dutch killed Colm's brother, and Colm killed Annabelle, the woman he loved. Dutch also wants to know more about the train job they were planning.
I know you don't think much of my ideas recently, but this is the right move. Okay, you know I got your back.
Colm leaves, but Colm can wait. They invade the camp, kill the O'Driscolls occupying it, and leave with dynamite and the plans to attack Leviticus Cornwall's train. On returning to Colter, they pick up Kieran Duffy, a newish member of the O'Driscoll gang, and take him hostage. He could be useful. Dutch waste no time as they have a train to catch.
Why are we doing this? Weather's breaking, we could leave. I thought we was lying low. I just don't want any more folks to die, Dutch.
But we need money. Everything we has in Blackwater.
Leviticus Cornwall's no joke, Dutch.
Sounds like he has more than enough to share. It is time to make something of ourselves.
The gang have already kicked the hornet's nest in Blackwater. and they do it once more. The gang stop the train and relieve the armoured carriage of bonds, another fly in the ointment of the Cornwall-led corporation. As the snow thaws, the gang make their way down into the heartlands. They need to keep moving. Dutch sends Lenny and Micah ahead for reconnaissance, and the gang eventually arrive at Horseshoe Overlook, near the town of Valentine.
Here we are, gentlemen. Home sweet home.
Dutch insists the plan is still on track.
We make a bit of money here. In a few months, buy some land.
I hope so.
We are safe now, and we are far too poor. So it is time for everyone to get to work.
The camp exists with Dutch at its centre, often flanked by his adoring and often neglected girlfriend, Molly O'Shea.
He bloody well loves me, do you know? He bloody well does.
The camp is home. Some are more comfortable than others. Kieran imprisoned until the gang are ready for him. But first, like Dutch said, the gang need money. Each member of the gang has their way to bring in their share. Herr Strauss puts money out on the street, which Arthur collects. Hosea's got a line on fencing carriages. Charles contributes more honest work on occasion in hunting. The gang also act on tips that the girls find. Mary Beth got wind of a train heist, and Karen a bank job. These are the riskiest methods, but invariably the most profitable. The law could quickly be on you, and it's a great way to further rile the corporate entities needing to protect their investments. All that work can be exhausting, but Valentine is a great place to get some R&R. The boys are supposed to be lying low.
Oh, and we have our answer!
Bill starts it, but Arthur finishes it, besting the local brute, Tommy. Before he can do serious damage, he is stopped by a good Samaritan, Thomas Downs.
Surely that's enough.
What business is it of yours?
I beg you.
Making new friends again, I see, Arthur.
Josiah Trelawney.
Josiah is a con man and a part-time member of the gang, kept around because of his sporadic but often crucial information. Here, this time with news of Sean Maguire, a member of the gang lost during the failed heist in Blackwater.
He's being held by some bounty hunters, trying to see how much money the government will pay them.
While Sean is being moved, the gang infiltrate and take him back.
You're a great man, Arthur Morgan. The kind of young whippersnapper I can really admire.
Oh, shut up.
There hasn't been much cause for celebration of late, but a safe return of one of their number is definitely one of them. A win for the gang, but they still have work to do. Arthur has more debts to collect, and one of those debtors is Thomas Downs. Ill, desperate, and with no hope of paying up, Arthur leaves empty-handed. Crippled by debt, the family won't last long, and Arthur knows it. Coming up against corporations and other outlaws, Arthur can figure. But something about real people caused real pain? He can't. Thomas Downs succumbs to his illness, and his wife and son are left destitute. Dutch finally gets round to questioning Kieran.
Okay, listen. I know where O'Driscoll's holed up, and you're right. He don't like you any more than you like him. He's at 6 Point Cabin.
They take Kieran and kill more O'Driscolls, but Colm is not there. Kieran saves Arthur's life in the process.
You all right?
Sure, thank you.
In payment for this, Kieran can stay with the gang in the camp as a free man. Lenny returns to the camp shaken. He and Micah have been missing ever since being sent ahead for scouting. Micah has been arrested in Strawberry for murder.
You know my feelings about him, Dutch. You think I can't see past his bluster to the heart inside? He is a fine man.
Arthur reluctantly agrees to break him out.
You're lucky Dutch has got your back for some unknown reason.
We're family now. Sons of Dutch. Makes us brothers.
The saying that you can't choose your family is never truer than in Dutch's gang. His other brother, Jack Marston, has nigh on recovered from his wounds and is up and earning. But in the camp, he has a family. A family he has a record of neglecting.
He ditched us for a goddamn year. Running off on that kid is one thing, but there's code.
John, like Arthur, wrestles with who he is. John, struggling to be a father as well as an outlaw. In the meantime, though, young Jack seems to have his share of father figures in the camp. Arthur takes Jack fishing. When packing up, Agent Milton and Agent Ross of the Pinkertons show up.
You're a wanted man, Mr. Morgan. It's $5,000 for your head alone. We want Van der Linde. Bring in Van der Linde, and you have my word you won't swing.
Loyal to the cause, Arthur refuses and returns to Dutch.
Well, what do we do now? I say we do nothing. We just need to stay calm.
Stay calm. Those they have wronged in the past with their way of life had not the power of Leviticus Cornwall. By stealing his assets, robbing his trains and disrupting his advancement, the gang have made themselves targets and the world is closing in. Safe for now, Arthur meets John for another job, rustling sheep to sell in Valentine.
You was at that thing in Blackwater. We already seen Pinkertons here. This life, this way, well, we're the last, I reckon. And we ain't long for it.
After herding their stolen sheep back to Valentine, they meet Dutch and Strauss in the saloon. John and Strauss exit the saloon and Dutch and Arthur's conversation gets interrupted.
Get out here! Get out
What
here
the
now! You don't know me, but you keep robbing me! My name is Leviticus Cornwall. I am not a man to be messed with by the likes of you! Get out here before I have these men killed! Deal with this nonsense.
Arthur manages to free his friends and the gang shoot their way out of Valentine.
We can't stick around after this. Let's go!
This time, to Clemens Point, near Rhodes.
Imagine what a slew of rich simpletons there must be down here. Oh, this is perfect for you, Hosea. You'll be able to play them like a fiddle.
The gang find themselves in a land caught between two warring families, the Greys and the Braithwaites. Dutch spots an opportunity and divides the troops, with Arthur heading up the investigation of the Greys and Hosea to spearhead the Braithwaites. The Greys are tobacco plantation owners and own half the businesses in Rhodes. Lee Gray is the town sheriff. The Braithwaites are former slave owners and cotton farmers, now turned to moonshine since the Civil War.
Awful people, truly awful. They've been fighting with the Greys for as long as I can remember.
If I don't get out of here soon, I'm gonna kill somebody.
Sadie Adler is emerging from her cloud of grief and beginning to feel pent up. Up in the Adler Ranch, she was a self-sufficient woman that shared all the work with her husband, including the hunting. The menial work in the camp is getting her down and she wants to be involved in more of the heavy lifting.
So be it. But we do more than just hunting. We're hunted.
Sadie's inaugural outing to Rhodes turns south. A local gang attack, but she and Arthur hold their own. Sadie has emerged from a cocoon of grief a different woman, one fueled by hate and revenge towards the O'Driscolls.
These two families, I really think we can play this from all sides. We gotta convince each family that we're on their side, and then we rob them both. Before they figure out it was us that done it, and not the other lot, we'll be long gone.
The gang help the Greys confiscate moonshine liquor from the Braithwaites, selling it back to them, then giving it away in the Rhodes saloon to undermine the Grey profit margin. Stealing Braithwaite pedigree horses, burning Grey tobacco, giving satisfaction to either family with one hand and dealing disarray with the other, hoping that in doing so they could earn enough trust to learn more information about the legendary Confederate gold that lies somewhere between them. Although away from Valentine and their new location unknown to the Pinkertons for now, their reach cannot be underestimated. The gang gets wind that the O'Driscolls are looking to draw a line under their feud and broker a peace treaty.
Have you lost your minds?
You're always telling us, Dutch, do what has to be done, but don't fight wars ain't worth fighting.
Despite his hatred for Colm O'Driscoll, Dutch is persuaded. They suspect a trap, but due to the heat on them from all sides, it's a chance they have to take. Arthur takes position with his rifle, but their suspicions are correct. Dutch and Micah leave unscathed, but Arthur, on the hill, is Colm's real target. Now kidnapped, they hope to lure Dutch into their possession and hand him over to the Pinkertons, in exchange for the freedom to be outlaws. After all, it's Dutch they want.
The way I see it, they get him, they forget about me.
They ain't the forgetting sort.
Arthur escapes. The Pinkertons fail again. Back in Rhodes, it seems Dutch underestimated the land and its people. They thought they could pull the wool over the eyes of both families and use the hatred between them to mask their intent. It seems the gang overstepped. Not only did the families use the gang for their own means, they knew their plan and now look to nip it in the bud. The Greys request a meeting in Rhodes.
This don't feel right.
Now it don't feel right. I could have told you that.
Sean Maguire is the first casualty since Blackwater, but the Greys underestimate the shooting power of Dutch's gang.
This is
the Greys town. Only Greys I see left around here is you.
In a few short minutes, a dynasty that has had a hold on this land for decades is removed. But another gang member has fallen.
He was like an annoying little brother to me. What fun we had riding together. What a goddamn mess we are making of things.
Where's my goddamn son?
While the Greys got the measure of the gang, so have the Braithwaites. Catherine Braithwaite, uncovering their theft of her much-loved horses, retaliates by taking their youngest son, Jack. Their plans now flawed, they set out to get him back. The mythical gold that divides this family seemingly stays mythical, as the gang conclude it may not exist.
Both these redneck families think they can ruin us? I don't think so.
Just like they decimated the Greys, the gang, filled with purpose, wipe out the Braithwaites, not before extracting the whereabouts of Jack.
Where's the boy?
My sons gave him to Angelo Bronte. So my guess is Saint Denis.
They have a name and a location, but before they leave for pastures new, the Pinkertons finally come face to face with Dutch Van der Linde in the perceived safety of their camp.
This is a civilized land now.
This place ain't no such thing as civilized. It's man. So in love with greed, he has forgotten himself and found only appetites.
Agent Milton's plan? To test the ties that bind. Dutch come with them now, and the rest can go free.
I don't want to kill all these folk, Dutch. Just you.
In that case, it'd be my honor to join you.
The loyalty that Dutch values is strong, and the Pinkertons leave empty-handed. But it's time to move on again.
Welcome home to my humble abode.
Shady Belle is their new home.
George,
Yes?
could I have a word with you?
Not now. Everything okay with you two? I got far more important things to worry about right now than Molly O'Shea.
Dutch and Arthur ride to Saint Denis.
I think we need to move a little further. Put some ocean between us and all of this.
The gang's dream of heading west may be over. Each job they pull engenders more determination from the country to track them down. Dutch now plans to take them abroad, but not yet. Their driver now in this progressive town is to find Jack and earn the money needed for a new life.
Hey there. Have you ever heard of a man called Angelo Bronte?
Angelo Bronte is a gangster with the town in his pocket. That includes the law and the city mayor. They track him down at his town mansion.
How about this? You perform a simple job for me, and you get your son back.
They comply, and Jack returns to the relief of the gang.
I got my son back!
Jack. Everything's okay now.
A moment of harmony in a sea of disorder. Saint Denis is the biggest city around, home to industry, criminality. People flock here to make ends meet in all sorts of ways. Mrs. Downs is one of those. In order to keep her and her son afloat, she has turned to prostitution. And when Arthur, the symbol of their ruination, crosses her path...
Mrs. Downs?
Oh no, not you.
Hey,
Help! Help!
Hold on.
This man is bothering me!
Her shame and hatred is evident. Angelo Bronte runs this town. He has the law, the government, and now he wants Dutch's gang to use them for his own ends. He invites them to a ball hosted by the mayor to set this dynamic in motion. The gang, however, see this as the perfect opportunity to get the measure of the opportunities in this town.
So, this is Saint Denis High Society.
Whether Dutch knows this or not, this party represents a world that is slowly killing the way of life he holds dear. Hobart Crawley represents the army that helped facilitate the economic expansion both at home and in islands like Guarma. And Alberto Fuzar, the Cuban installed as leader in Guarma by the US. He facilitates Leviticus Cornwall's sugar empire there, while oppressing its people to assist. Another oppressed nation, the Wapiti Indian tribe, is also here to plead against the government, breaking their treaty and allowing Cornwall's oil interests to enter their land. The gang is not the only way of life being threatened in this country. But at this moment, the agenda of the guests of this party are not their concern. They leave armed with information on jobs at a casino, a trolley station, and the biggest score of all, at a bank. So they have a plan that's back on track, and some space. But the Pinkertons aren't the only aggressors that want the head of Dutch Van der Linde.
What is that? the hell have they done to him?
The O'Driscolls attack the clamp. The gang are pushed back to the house, but Sadie is trapped outside. As Arthur moves in to help, he witnesses the anger and rage against the O'Driscolls that has been brewing ever since they took her husband. She has believed herself a capable outlaw for some time. From this moment, the gang believe it too. Although not fully fledged, they have lost another gang member to their enemies in Kieran Duffy. Later on, both Sadie and Dutch get to see Colm O'Driscoll hang, although this does not stem their anger. If the O'Driscolls can find their camp, the Pinkertons won't be far behind.
We need to leave forever, but for us all to leave together, we need enough for a boat. Now, I found a friendly ship captain. He's willing to take us to Australia or Tahiti.
For this, they need money. The casino job? They trick their way into the safe room for a decent haul, but still not enough. The trolley station? A tip given to them by Angelo Bronte. The gang march in, but the tip is a poor one. In fact, they have been set up by Bronte. Saint Denis' finest are waiting for them.
Put the law on us? What did I do to him?
I guess he thinks he's the king around here.
There is a pattern to Dutch's actions thus far. He will not be walked over or governed by anyone, and anyone who slights him or anyone he holds dear will run the risk of extinction. On more than one occasion he has denied it is revenge and conjured a pragmatic reason for the action he takes. The gang now infiltrates Bronte's mansion. They take care of his gangsters, and Dutch, planning to ransom him, kills Angelo brutally while enraged.
It ain't nice. I know it. But it is us or him.
Hosea's bank job is the last on their list. Do that and they're off to Tahiti. Since the failed Blackwater heist, the other members have been questioning Dutch's decisions more and more. First Hosea, then Arthur, and now John.
This is it, gentlemen. The last one.
Where have we heard that before?
What has happened to you, John? You lost all your heart.
I'm just trying to stay real about all this.
Dutch is beginning to lose patience. Hosea, with Kieran, sets off a decoy. The gang move in and look to leave with the money they need. But the Pinkertons are waiting, and they have Hosea as hostage.
Someone must have squealed.
Never should have gone after Bronte, Dutch.
Hosea, Dutch's partner in crime, his guiding light, his voice of reason, is executed by Agent Milton in the street.
God damn it! Kill those bastards! You lost John.
Killed?
Arrested. I couldn't help.
Well, we better go. We'll be next.
With Hosea dead and John arrested, they make their escape over the rooftops, only to suffer another casualty to their number.
Damn shit!
Lenny is gunned down.
You got Lenny?
The remainder take haven in an abandoned building. Saint Denis is now in complete lockdown. The only way out is by sea.
We leave. We lie low. We come back for the rest in a few weeks.
Charles causes a distraction while the remainder of the bank job crew stow away on a ship setting sail for Cuba. While the storm up near Colter allowed the gang to escape, the storm in the Atlantic Ocean found them in chains. Escaping a sinking ship, the gang washed up on the island of Guarma and are quickly scooped up by the overseer of the sugar plantation, the right-hand man of Alberto Fusar. To fill Cornwall ships with sugar and to keep profits high, Fusar and his men work this land and its people hard. A land oppressed, it has those that would fight back. The rebels spring their brothers in chains, and Dutch's boys too, but in the melee, Javier is shot and captured.
Don't lose face, son! We'll find you!
In order to get off this island and back to the gang members they left behind, they need to get back Javier. The rebels know where he is being held, and in return for a bit of help with their cause, they can find them a boat. Arthur joins Dutch where Javier is being held.
So what happened with John in that bank?
He survived. The only one they took alive. And Abigail, I presume she was able to slip away in time. I begin to wonder, maybe, for somebody, this is all going exactly to plan.
A fact that Arthur has failed to comprehend since the failed bank heist in Blackwater is how could Dutch have deliberately killed an innocent person in pursuit of his goals? That's not who they were. As a local guide attempts to extort more pay for sneaking them into the compound, Arthur sees this firsthand.
Pay now.
Dutch? What are you doing? Oh, Jesus.
She was gonna betray us, Arthur. Couldn't you tell?
You keep killing folk, Dutch.
They spring Javier, battle their way through Fusar and his men, and leave the island destined for Van Horn. They are to slip ashore individually and find the rest of the gang. Arthur tracks them down in Lakay, closely followed by Dutch.
Trust me, I am gonna get us out of here.
We are here to arrest you!
The Pinkertons are waiting for them once again. Under fire, Sadie and Arthur manage to flank them. Eventually, they retreat.
You okay, son?
What do we do, Dutch?
Clearly we need to leave. I just need somebody to buy me some goddamn time, one of you.
You'll figure it out, boss. You always do.
What's remaining of the gang are all here, bar Molly, Dutch's girlfriend, and John, imprisoned. Dutch still not quite sure who tipped off the Pinkertons, but his money is on John.
What are you gonna do about John, Dutch?
Not now, Miss, not now.
Sadie has other ideas. The gang find a new home. Counting Colter, Beaver Hollow is their fifth but final stop as the Dutch Van der Linde gang. Molly O'Shea is a woman marginalised by the events that have transpired, deeply in love with Dutch, but attempts to connect with him have failed. Uncle finds her drunk in Saint Denis. A woman scorned, she submits that she is responsible for tipping off the Pinkertons about the bank robbery.
I told them!
You?
Miss Grimshaw does what gang rules require.
She knew the rules, Arthur.
There is one thing that Dutch demands of both himself and the people he has mentored under his guidance, and that is loyalty. In the past, he's been able to command it, not through money like Leviticus Cornwall, or fear like Cornwall Driscoll, but through love, or at least the love he exudes through his words.
Proud of you boys, all of you.
A paternal word of praise from Dutch exudes love, and if you are the recipient, you would follow him anywhere. But Dutch's actions have increasingly failed to match his words, and the questioning of those actions by his adopted sons, Arthur and John, are in contravention of this loyalty. In order to get through this, he needs their cooperation, not their opposition. They need to be like Micah.
Arthur, do you have my bag?
Always, Dutch, but there's more than your back to worry about.
I ain't got a final plan yet. I just need time. I need time and no traitors.
Arthur sets off to meet Sadie in Saint Denis to free John. On the road, he collapses. Since moving from Horseshoe Overlook, Arthur has suffered increasingly intense coughing fits. Rescued and taken to a doctor, he is given a diagnosis of grave severity. All those weeks ago near Valentine, being a man he did not want to be, Arthur had contracted tuberculosis from the dying Thomas Downs.
Really sorry for you, son. It's a hell of a thing.
What do you mean?
You're real sick. It's a progressive disease.
Arthur Morgan has weeks to live. Rocked by this news, Arthur starts to invite inner clarity that was previously missing to his situation. Although his time left is finite, he has a choice in what he does with that time. He has a destiny that does not need to be tied to Dutch. With this epiphany still clarifying in his mind, he sets off with Sadie to free his friend. They break him out of Sisika Island Penitentiary and return him to the gang. Abigail is delighted. Dutch is not.
John! What are you doing here?
Another example of his leadership being questioned.
Loyalty, Arthur. I had a goddamn plan!
Arthur, still coming to terms with a new view on the world, he bumps into Mrs. Downs.
This country is man unleashed. That's the thing, and it ain't my fault any more than it is anyone else.
Man unleashed? Then unleash goodness. Not just hell's feeble brothers, sir.
Charles Smith put it best when he heard of Arthur's terminal illness.
Any day we can die. We could both die tonight. In a way, it is a gift to know. In a way, you are lucky. You still have time to make amends. The others, Hosea, Lenny, Sean, all them, they didn't. You got the chance to do something better.
He starts this process with the Downs family, freeing them from poverty in order to start a new life.
I ain't looking for forgiveness. It ain't about that. Don't forgive me. Just take the money and get out of here, please. I know I ruined your life. I suffer for it every day. But don't let yourself get killed for pride. I seen it kill too many folk.
Still hoping that Dutch is a man that can be salvaged, he meets him and Micah in Ansburg.
Micah reckons there's a rat.
Oh, does he? On what evidence? We've been on the run since you two fools went crazy in Blackwater. We don't need a rat. We got sloppier than the town drunk.
This time they are here for Leviticus Cornwall. Dutch wants to confront Cornwall and strike a deal to call off the Pinkertons.
This better not be no stupid revenge mission, Dutch.
Oh, Arthur, it's just a simple social call.
What do you want, sir? You kill. I kill. You rob. I rob. Only difference I can see is I choose whom I kill and rob, and you destroy everything in your path. You give me this ship, $10,000, and safe passage out of here, I'll let you live.
I'll do no such thing.
You sure? Good. I prefer it this way. You've lost your man!
With Cornwall dead, they escape with information on a job big enough to help them find freedom. Before this moment, the gang could be considered pesky annoyances to the civilized world. Flies in the ointment of change. But in killing the country's captain of industry, a man more powerful than even the government, the gang have not just the Pinkertons on them, or the law, but the army too. To stem the flow of the army and to give them breathing room, they need to destroy the army's main route into the area. They blow the bridge.
Well, I guess old Dutch got all the smoke he wants.
I love Dutch. He saved me a long time ago. Killing in cold blood, revenge. He seems to enjoy it now.
You know, all that ever mattered to me was loyalty. It's all I knew. It's all I ever believed in. Well, not anymore, John. You got a family. When the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back.
The gang are now working towards differing ends with an unbridgeable rift. But there are still people in this gang and out that Arthur cares about. His fate is bound with theirs. They have diversion, they have confusion, but Dutch needs more. There is too much heat on the gang. Charles and Arthur have been doing all they can to help the Wapiti tribe, and their chief reigns full.
We've made peace treaties, and those treaties were broken, and we've been moved and punished and moved.
The army are now doing their utmost to provoke the Indians into undermining their agreement to allow Cornwall's empire to dig for oil on their land. Dutch recognises the hot-headedness of the chief's son, Eagle Flies.
Colonel Favors is a liar and a murderer. His people won't stop until we're all dead.
And Dutch whips Eagle Flies into a frenzy to attack the oil plant.
Some good, honest conflict between the army and the Indians might be just the distraction we need.
The gang ride with them, half of them to protect the Indians from certain death and half for another purpose. With Eagle Flies in trouble, the gang fight through to support, but the army turn up with heavy artillery. Arthur and Dutch enter the factory.
You know why I wanted them to attack this place? I have no idea. We're getting our ticket out of here.
Dutch and Arthur find the bonds in the office.
Arthur, we're nearly there.
The army scupper their escape and Arthur succumbs to a burst pipe. He is pounced on by soldiers. Dutch, able to help, leaves him. Eagle Fly saves him, but is shot in the process.
You ran away. Oh, I did no such thing. Don't be a fool.
Arthur and Charles take Eagle Flies back to Wapiti.
I feel like he's descended into the kind of man he told us never to be.
Maybe he's just become more who he really is. There used to be some reason to it. Lines that couldn't be crossed. We even helped some folk. Those lines been gone for some time now.
The time has come for us to draw our own lines, Arthur. Decide where we go from here.
Arthur returns to the camp to a shell of what it once was. By this point, a number of the gang have fled. Uncle, Mary Beth, Karen, Reverend Swanson, the cook Pearson. Dutch is now beyond saving. Whether he is a man turned or just now more of who he really is, that's unclear. But for years, he had good counsel at his side in Hosea Matthews, his best friend and anchor. With him gone and the recent addition of Micah to his side, he is taking counsel from a man fueling his ego and feeding his tendencies for chaos. Micah is allowing Dutch to become the man he was in the past, able to keep at bay. The man that kills innocent people. The man that chooses revenge over pragmatism. The man that before would not leave the weak behind. With their world closing in and his illness taking hold, Arthur needs to make sure those most dear to him are safe. Arthur agrees to help Dutch with this last job. He insists that after the job, they let the women and the Marstons go. Dutch hides his shock and anger, but agrees.
He insists upon it.
They board the train for their last job. On boarding, John gets shot. Dutch and Micah agree to go back for him, the remainder of the gang, blow the carriage, and it is the score that they dreamed of.
Where's John?
He didn't make it. That patrol killed him. They had to run.
Dutch now has the means and the noise. Tilly, with Jack, meets them and reports that Abigail has been captured by the Pinkertons. Dutch's new voice of reason gives his counsel.
Dutch, it's just a girl.
You're right. Micah, it pains me to say it, Arthur, but he's right.
Dutch!
Come on, boys.
Jack, come here. Be brave, son. I'm gonna go get your mama.
Arthur and Sadie reach Van Horn and fight their way to reach Abigail. Sadie gets caught in the process. Arthur fights his way to them.
Calm down, Mr. Morgan. We offered you a deal, Mr. Morgan. Micah Belle. We picked him up when you boys came back from the Caribbean, and he's been a good boy ever since. Molly O'Shea sweated her a couple of times, never talked a word, had to let her go.
Horrible man.
They leave via horseback, fighting off Pinkertons. Arthur Ayling asks them to stop. He tells Abigail they think John's dead.
He loved you. He loved you, and Jack, he did. You gotta go get that boy.
Armed with this revelation, he rides back to the camp. Hopefully this can break the spell Dutch is under and free him of the devil on his shoulder.
We all need to have a little chat. You talked?
That's a goddamn lie.
Dutch!
John?
Left me to die!
All of you, you pick your side now because this is over. Oh, them years, Dutch, for this snake.
You live in the clouds.
No, you be quiet, Mr. Bell, and put down your gun.
There's Pinkertons coming! Fast!
Now, who amongst you is with me?
Belle, Javier, think for yourself.
Dutch is now lost forever. The truth can't even drag him for what he craves most: chaos, violence, and power. He has become what he hates about this new America. A man controlled by his appetites, not his head. Arthur hasn't got much time left, but the Pinkertons are closing in.
Put your guns down!
Arthur's life is drawing to a close, but if he can reunite a family, free a brother to start a new life, that would be something.
Come on, Arthur!
John and Arthur escape through the caves and make their way into the mountains. They continue on foot.
Thank you.
And with honour high, he fends off the Pinkertons to allow his friends to escape.
It would mean a lot to me. Please, go.
I got you now, Black Lung!
Rat! You rat!
I'm a survivor, Black Lung! A survivor!
God damn you. It's over. I gave you all I had.
We made it. We won. Come on.
John made it. He's the only one. I tried. In the end, I did.
Come on. Let's go. We can make it. Come on, Dutch.
Since Arthur was a boy, he has engaged in and fought for the philosophy of his mentor. Blind loyalty was his only compass. As Arthur dies, facing the dawning of a new day, he does so as a man of his own choosing. If this country is man unleashed, in his final act, he attempted to unleash goodness. His hope is that this goodness can live on in the Marston family. John did make it, and so did his family, but going straight is not easily done. Abigail is desperate to see them be a normal, hard-working family. But John has committed too many infractions to this plan, and they are on the run as John has killed a man in Roanoke.
What do you know about Strawberry?
I know they like good, honest, hard-working men, a whole lot more than angry killers.
They arrive in Strawberry and quickly find work and lodgings at Pronghorn Ranch. To the ranch owner, David Geddes, John Marston is now Jim Milton, but all quietly know his name is a fake. but John has undeniable skill sets, and the ranch is in danger from the Laramie boys. John is drawn into protecting his new boss from harm and reverts to type.
Stop acting like a goddamn storybook hero, will ya?
What choice did I have?
John is now a ranch hand, but he still has the skills of an outlaw. Although fraught with violence, Abigail has cause for hope.
I was reading about a old ranch, Beecher's Hope, down by Blackwater. I thought maybe we could raise some money. Bank could lend us the rest. We could be happy, John.
Bank loans? I got a goddamn price on my head, woman.
I know all about that.
With the violence showing no sign of leaving John, Abigail takes Jack and leaves.
I had so many dreams, John. I hoped you would change.
This very act by Abigail serves as the catalyst for John to change. He works hard on the Geddes Ranch to earn some capital, and the bank does the rest. He is the owner of Beecher's Hope. Before John settles into his new ranch, he meets a friend.
It is you! Well, I thought you was dead, boy!
Uncle, with no better place to be, joins John for the hard work ahead.
What are we gonna farm here? Rocks? You don't have a hope here without a wise hand at the tiller.
Enough of that. Get out of here. On your way.
No, you're stuck with me.
The pair are also joined by two other old friends.
John Marston.
Sadie, now a successful bounty hunter, and Charles Smith. Charles, now a bare-knuckle boxer glad for a way out. John earns bounty money with Sadie Adler to help pay the debt, and Charles, Uncle and John work together to make Beecher's Hope into a working ranch. With John gone straight, Abigail and Jack return.
So you happy?
I think so.
And I did good?
You did good.
John has his family, his friends, and a future. John takes Abigail to Blackwater and allow themselves some time together. As well as space to escape, Arthur gave John his satchel. In it was his diary, which John resolved to continue, and also a ring that Arthur gave to his former girlfriend, Mary Gillis. The ring returned to Arthur, a symptom of his loyalty to the gang. Abigail agrees to marry him. Before this can happen, Sadie arrives with news of the whereabouts of Micah.
You coming?
No, he's not coming.
I will.
That's your business. His business is here.
Yeah, I'll ride with you. Please, try to... I ain't got no other choice.
Although he's risking it all, Micah is the reason for much pain. John, Sadie, and Charles need retribution. They track him to his mountain hideout. John confronts Micah.
Hello, Scarface. Did you miss me?
Come on now, Micah. At least die like a man.
All manner of folk paying social calls.
Hello, son.
What are you doing here, Dutch?
Same as you, I suppose. You betrayed me.
I could say the same as you. Dutch, we all did our best for you.
Since Arthur's death, little is known about the movements of the people who sided with Dutch. Bill, Javier, Micah. We do know they went their separate ways, probably at the moment of Arthur's death. Whatever happened until this moment, Dutch chose to discount the fact that Micah was a rat, putting all their lives at risk on multiple occasions. In fact, Dutch had recently partnered with Micah to get back the stash they had left in Blackwater all those years ago.
Say something, Dutch!
I ain't got too much to say no more.
Ever the enigma, Dutch walks away from John and from the money. Ever the enigma to John, ever the enigma to himself. Perhaps his sense of loyalty prevailed here. Or maybe his sense of revenge. Revenge now complete and wealthy, Charles moves north to Canada in search of peace and happiness. Sadie moves south in search of adventure. With John's share of the money, he pays off the farm, marries Abigail, and begins to settle into the paradise that they dreamed of. The name John Marston gave to the folks in Pronghorn Ranch was Jim Milton. When combined with his, make up the name of the author of this book, paradise lost. A cruel prophecy in a world that does not forgive. I hope you enjoyed this video from me, the Patient Wolf, and if you did, leave a like or a comment. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button for more of my unique gaming content. Furthermore, if inclined, visit my Patreon page for details on how to further support my work. Thanks again for watching.